Hello YouTube family, it is Jim Nanjue right here with a new Photoshop tutorial for you guys. I'm very excited about this because it is my very first Photoshop tutorial with voice narration. It sounds very weird to talk to myself. I hope that you guys are going to like this video and find it helpful. I have provided a link in the video description where you can download all the resources that we are going to use in this project. You can also get more info about this project on my website jimnanjue.com under the tutorials section. Just remember to credit all the authors who provided these awesome stock images from DeviantArt. To save time, I have already extracted some elements that we shall use in this project, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Head over to Photoshop and click on File, New. Let's use Open. File, Open. After downloading the resources, head over to the location where you saved them. In my case, it's in the desktop, in the stocks, and open this image right here. It's called the night. Select it and head over to Open. Photoshop is going to open it for us. Let's rename it to Standing Guy. Yeah, that's right. Press enter to accept. Then convert it to a smart object by right clicking and selecting convert to smart object. Head over to file and use place embedded. We are going to place in our landscape like that. Scale it up a little bit by pressing and holding Shift and Alt while you scale up. It's going to scale from the center. Then position it at the bottom there. Then we'll head over to the layers panel and rename it to landscape. Press enter to accept. Then drag it beneath our standing guy. Let's see whether we can place it a little better. You can see this empty space right here. You don't want that to be visible, so that positioning will be okay for now. We can change it later. Now let's bring in our sky. Go to file, place embedded, and choose the sky. It's named Turquoise Sunset. You can get all these resources in the link I provided in the description. Select it and click on place. Let's scale it up. Again, hold Shift and Alt to resize from the center and position it appropriately. That is probably okay. Then drag it at the bottom. Let's rename it to Sunset. Now we are going to hide this white part of the sky. We are going to make it the sunset sky visible. So click on the landscape and add a layer mask. Press B on your keyboard to select the brush tool. You can right click to make sure that it is a soft brush. If it's not, you can click on this default brush right here to select it. Press D on your keyboard to make the foreground and background colors black and white. Then X to switch to make black our foreground color. We are going to paint with black on this sky to hide it. So make the brush quite large using the bracket keys. The right bracket key makes the brush larger and the left bracket key reduces the size. So paint on the areas that we want to hide. Make sure the transition is smooth, like that. Continue painting in until you have the entire sky masked. You can also try clicking on one point, then heading to the end, and while holding Shift, click at the end and it's going to create a straight line. You can see we have a problem right here. So click X or hold X on your keyboard to switch to white as the foreground color, and we are going to make these parts visible like that. Paint these sections in. Now that is okay. Let's zoom in to make some finer adjustments. Make the brush smaller. You can reduce the opacity to around 72% and also the flow to around 56%. Then we are going to hide some of these edges to make the transition even smoother. So make the brush larger and click on X to switch your foreground color to black. Then brush on the areas that don't have a smooth transition. We are going to fix this transparency in a while. I think that's okay. Press Ctrl 0 on your keyboard to fit the image in the canvas. Then we are going to click on the sunset layer. Hold V on your keyboard to switch to the move tool and drag the sunset layer down a little bit like that. You can see the transparent areas are gone and the transition looks smooth, but there is a problem with the color correction, and we are going to fix that later. Now let's bring in our squatting guy. Head over to File, again click on Press Embedded. Now we are going to bring in our bending guy. As I said in the introduction, I have already gone ahead to extract it using the pen tool. You can use any selection method that you love. Click on it and click on Place. As you can see, it's quite huge, so we are going to scale it down while holding Shift to constrain our proportions. Scale it down. Make sure it matches the size of this standing guy. We are going to use the shoulders to estimate. Shoulders and the head, like that. Yeah, I think that's okay. Then place him appropriately. I'm going to leave him right here. I think that's okay. Then when you are done, click on the check mark right here to accept the transform. We are going to paint in some digital shadows. So click on the standing guy layer and click on the new layer icon to create a new layer above it. Rename this Contact Shadow. Then press B on your keyboard to select the brush tool, and we are going to use the same settings, or let me add a little flow to the setting, or we can use 100%. Let's use 100%. Zoom in using the Ctrl++ on Windows, or use the bracket keys to make the brush smaller, and press on D on the keyboard to make the default foreground color to black. Then we are going to paint in some shadows where his shoe comes into contact with the ground, like that. Make sure that the soft tip of the brush is what is visible. I think that's okay. You can see when I turn it on and off, now it looks more realistic. Then we are going to create a new layer and paint in some softer shadows. So rename this layer to Softer Shadows. Accept. Then head over to the brush settings and set the opacity to around 38% and the flow to 38% as well, or 37%. Then make the brush larger using the right bracket key on your keyboard and painting a soft shadow like that. we are going to reduce the opacity later. Then let's also place a soft shadow right here beneath the bending guy's hand, like that. Head back to the, or click on the contact shadow layer, make the brush small, and make the opacity and the flow 100%, and make the contact shadow, or paint in the contact shadow where the hand comes into contact with the ground. Make sure your brush hardness is set to soft. I think that is okay. You can zoom out to make sure that it is okay. Then let's reduce the opacity of the soft shadows. Yeah, we can have that at around 50%. Yeah, that is okay for now. Then we are going to try to match the colors on these two clothes. And also you can see that the trouser right here has a bluish color tone and this one is brownish, so we are going to try to match these colors. Let's group the bending guy layers. So click on the bending guy and hold shift, then click on the contact shadow to select all, then press Ctrl G on your keyboard to group them, and let's rename these to bending guy. Accept. Let's change the color code of the group. Right click and I'll choose red, so that when you expand the group you can easily see the layers that are contained inside. So we are going to add a few adjustment layers to match the two layers, the colors. The first one is going to be a hue saturation adjustment layer. Click on this button to clip it to the group so that the changes that we make are only visible to it. Then let's reduce the saturation a bit. I think that is okay. Negative 35. You can turn it on and off to see the effect. Then also we can turn the lightness down a bit. I think negative 10 is okay. Yeah, that is probably okay. Then we are going to add a levels adjustment layer. So click on the adjustment layers icon and choose levels. Again, click on the clipping icon to clip it to the group. Then we are going to bring down the shadows a bit. 2 will be okay. Then the midtones also, let's have those at 0.97. You can turn it on and off to view the effect. Then I think this part of the image has become quite dark and I don't like it. So while your layer mask is selected on the levels adjustment layer, click on your brush tool, use the bracket keys to make it larger, the right bracket key, and we are going to paint with black on this section to hide the effect and make it brighter. To see the changes, you can hold shift on your keyboard and click on the layer mask to turn it on and off. I think that looks better. Then this area of the guy has become too dark, so I'm also going to hide the effect here using the layer mask. And also on the hue saturation layer, it seems that the lightness setting that we did made this area quite dark, so we can paint with black also need to bring some of that back. This area also has become too dark and I don't like it, so head over to the levels adjustment layer and paint with black to bring some of the midtones back. I think that looks okay. Yeah, pretty much okay. You can double click on the layer mask on the hue saturation layer and reduce its density to around 50%. This is the same as reducing the layers opacity. Yeah, I like that. Next we are going to color correct the guy's trouser to match it to the guy who is standing up. So we are going to use a hue saturation adjustment layer to do this. Add a new hue saturation adjustment layer. Again, clip it to the group below. Then we are going to use the hue slider to try and match the hues. Let me drag this to the side so that you can see it properly. Also, let me zoom in using the Ctrl++. You can drag the hue until you are comfortable with the color. I think that's okay. I'm looking at specifically at the trousers color change because we are going to hide the rest of the effect using the layer mask. So I think I'm okay with that. Then while your layer mask is selected, press Ctrl+I on your keyboard to invert your layer mask to hide the entire effect. Now we are going to use a white soft brush to reveal the effect on the trouser. So make the brush the appropriate size using the bracket keys and press X on your keyboard to make white the foreground color. Then we are going to paint on the trouser. You can see that we are bringing some of that color back in. We are going to zoom in and make some finer adjustments, but let me first get these out of the way. That is okay. Now let's zoom in and make some finer adjustments. You can see these areas have been left out, so go ahead and paint on them with white as well. Make sure that this color effect does not spill over to the pullover. So when it does, in like for example this area right here, press X on your keyboard to switch back to black. Make your brush small enough and hide the effect on the sweater like that. Switch to the foreground color again and reveal the color on the trouser. We are going to repeat this until we have the entire sweater covered. Mistake. When you make a mistake, head over to the history panel and go one step back. Click on the option that is right above it. Then press X on your keyboard to make the foreground color black and hide the effect appropriately. I think that's okay. Well, for now, let me hide it also on this chain right here. I think that looks okay. So you can see the change that we made to the trouser. Let me zoom in for you to see that clearly. You can see from blue to brown. I however think that it is too saturated right now, so double click on your adjustment layer as the thumbnail and reduce the saturation quite a bit until you can until you like the effect. I think that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. Let's move forward. We are going to blend the landscape layer to the sky. As you can see, this white area right here is quite annoying, looks quite annoying and fake. So click on your landscape layer, go to the adjustment layers icon and choose levels. Click the clipping icon to clip it to the landscape layer so that the changes that we make will only be visible on the landscape layer. They will not affect the sunset layer. Then bring in some of the shadows. 12 will do. Then the midtones, bring them in until you like the effect. I'm specifically looking at this area right here. So as you can see, we've made it darker. So while your layer mask is selected on the levels adjustment layer, hold Ctrl plus I on your keyboard to hide the entire effect. Then your keyboard to select your brush tool and make it larger. Then we are going to paint with a white brush on these areas right here to reveal the effect and make it blend better with the sky. I think that looks better. Then we are also going to match the colors. As you can see, the sky is very blue. So while your landscape layer is selected, click on the layer styles icon and choose color overlay. Click on the color picking thumbnail to bring up our color picker. And using our eyedropper, we are going to sample a color from the top. I think that's okay. The color code is 204151. Then set the blend mode to soft light. Let's try color. No, soft light will be okay. Or let's try to reduce the opacity quite a bit. Now let's go back to soft light. Add the opacity to around 65-66%. Click on OK. Then we are going to brighten up the bottom of this sky. So click on the sunset layer, create a new layer and name it brightening. Don't worry about these names, you can name it to whatever you want. Then with your brush selected, click on X to switch the foreground colors, and make sure the brush is quite big and paint in a white highlight. Then set the blend mode to soft light like that. I think that blends better. Then we are going to reduce the opacity to around 40%. Yeah, 40% is okay. Then we are also going to desaturate the landscape layer. So bring up the hue saturation layer, adjustment layer, bring down the saturation until you're okay with the blending. Bring up the lightness quite a bit. Yeah, -30 and 7 will work. So yeah, then we are going to create a new solid color adjustment layer. We are going to fill in with a blue color. I have a color code. We are going to use 51B0A8. Set the blend mode to soft light and bring down the opacity to 45%. Yeah, that is okay. I'm going to work on this layer mask to make this transition much better. So click on your layer mask icon, select your brush tool and make black your foreground color, and continue to, let me undo that, paint in with black to make this transition much better. You can see I'm painting in with the edge of the brush. To get rid of this, we are going to push the sunset layer down. Press V on your keyboard to bring up the move tool and push it down a bit like that. I think that looks okay now. Yeah. Next we are going to bring in some foliage. The foliage is going to help us hide these parts of our image. So click on the topmost layer and go to File, Place Embedded, and we are going to bring in these hanging branches right here. Click on Place, hold Shift and Alt to scale down. Then we are going to before you click on the check mark, right click and flip horizontal. Then place the branches appropriately. I like that. Once you're okay with it, you can either press enter on your keyboard or click on the check mark. But one problem that you can see already is that the edges they don't look nice. So let's first of all rename this layer to hanging branches. Control click on the layers thumbnail to bring up its selection. Then click on the layer mask icon to create a layer mask, and you can see that the layer mask has already made our edges quite smoother. You can press and hold Shift while you click on your layer mask to view the before and after. You can see before and after, before and after. So I'm going to leave it like that. Then we are going to bring in our second foliage image, this one right here. We are going to hide these areas, but first of all let us place it appropriately. I think that's okay. You can scale it down while holding Shift until you're okay with the scaling. I think I'm going to leave it like that. Then place on the check mark. Let me rename this layer to left foliage. Then create a new layer mask on the layer so that you can hide this area. Then click on your brush tool, make it much smaller, and with a black brush let's hide this unwanted section like so. Also I don't like this, so let's hide it as well. That is okay. Then let me hide this area right here. Duplicate the left foliage layer and rename that to the right foliage layer. Press enter on your keyboard to accept. Then with your move tool, drag it to the center of the canvas. Press Ctrl T to bring up the control command. Then right click in the selection to flip it horizontal. Then also right click again and flip vertically. We are going to place it at the edge, rotate as such, and press it appropriately. I think that's okay. Then click on the check mark to accept the transformation command. Then select your layer mask and press B on your keyboard to bring the brush tool. Make it quite big using the bracket keys, the right bracket key. Then with a black brush, hide this section of the image. Then select your two foliage layers and drag them beneath the standing guy group. As you can see, they have gone behind the layer and they look much better. Then press Ctrl G on your keyboard to group the the layers and rename them to foliage. I think that's okay. Then we are going to drag the landscape layer a bit. Press Ctrl T on your keyboard to bring up the control command, scale command. Then scale it up a bit and drag it to the bottom like that. Again like that. Press on the check mark to accept the change. Then do the same to the sunset layer. Select your move tool by pressing key on your keyboard and drag it down. That's okay. Then we are going to add a few color correction adjustments to the foliage layers. Select the foliage group that we've just created. I can't seem to find it. Oh, here it is. Right click on it and give it a color code so that we can spot it quickly. I'll choose green. Right click on this area right here and select any color that you want. Then we are going to add a hue saturation adjustment layer on top of it and click on the clipping icon. Then bring down the saturation a bit, the lightness to -5. That will work. You can see the before and the after. So now we are going to add the sun glow on the sky. So we're going to create a new layer above the color fill by clicking the new layer icon. Then let's rename this to sun glow. Set the blending mode to screen and choose your brush tool on the tools panel. Then with your right bracket key, make the brush quite large, around 3000 pixels. Then click on your foreground color and we are going to set a custom color for the sun. This is going to be 78 B0A8 B0A8. I think I have that wrongly. It's supposed to be a bright orange color like that. Let's use AA9963 as the code. Then with your sun glow layer selected, click once to create a glow. I think that's too bright. Undo that. Let's go back in and select a darker color, a darker orange color. Let's try 65572E. Yeah, I think that's okay. Click 2 times to make it larger. Then we can reduce the opacity quite a bit to around 89%. Yeah, that is okay. Then we are also going to add the sun's effect on the two men. So let's first of all start with the sun's rays on top of the two guys. Create a new layer. Let's call these sun's rays. Set the blend mode to screen and let's darken our color further to around 342 D17. Make your brush smaller and click once. Again in between the guy's armpit. You can turn it on and off to see the effect. It looks quite nice. It makes it look realistic. And let's reduce the opacity to around 65% or 64. That's okay. Now we are going to paint in the glow on the men's clothes. Let's start with the bending guy. Select the group and click on the new layer. It's going to be added, and the Photoshop will automatically make it a clipping mask. Double click on it to rename it to glow. Set its blend mode to color dodge. Let's zoom in. Hold space to grab your image and drag it, or you can also use the red square on the navigator panel. If you don't have this, you can click on window and select navigator. Let's zoom out a bit. Control plus minus. Then we are going to paint the glow on the guy's clothes. That's not appearing. Let's brighten the color a bit as such. Yeah, now it's visible. You can see the effect. Makes it look more realistic. Let's do the same on the standing guys layer. Create a new layer above it. Rename it also to glow. And while holding Alt, hover over in the middle of the two layers, and your cursor is going to switch to a square and an arrow pointing the layer beneath. So click on it to create a clipping mask. Then let's paint in the glow on the standing guy. Set the blend mode to color dodge. Then you can turn it on and off to view the effect. I think it looks nice. Add some to the trouser, like that. Then we are going to reduce the opacity because I think it looks too strong right now, to around 60%. Yeah, that's okay. Then now that we have everything set, one thing that we forgot to do is paint in some body shadows on the bending guy. So highlight his group, then click on the new layer icon. Let's call this layer body shadows. Then select your brush, press D on your keyboard to make the foreground and background colors black and white. Then we are going to reduce the opacity and the flow to around 40% each. Then zoom in using Control plus the plus key. Then we are going to especially make this shoe darker. Paint in. The more strokes you make, the darker it becomes. I think that looks better. We are going to make further adjustments later. Then make also this part of the trouser darker, and the hand. Let's reduce the opacity to around 50% or 49. Yeah, that looks better. To create a new layer on top of it, let's call these long shadows. Press enter to accept. I made a mistake right there. Long shadows. Then with the same settings of the opacity at 41% and the flow at 42%, we are going to paint in some parallel shadows to the sun. So make your brush quite larger using the right bracket key and paint in some shadow like that. Another one, and over there you can see. I think it's too strong, so we are going to reduce the opacity to around 60%. Let's add the opacity to around 65. Yeah, that's okay. Then we are going to create a new layer on top of it. Then it is going to be the ground shadow. We are going to drag it on top of the standing guy and make sure you make it as a clipping mask. Then with your brush selected, reduce the opacity to around 22% and the flow to around 28%. Then we are going to paint in some shadows on the ground to make it darker. The more strokes you make, the darker it becomes. That's why the flow is at 28%. I think that's okay. It looks much better. Let's reduce the opacity a bit to around 85% or 80. That looks better. Let's add the opacity of our long shadows to around 78%. That's better. Then on our ground shadow, create a layer mask. We are going to hide the effect on the standing guy's legs. Then make sure you make these settings 100% each. Then with a black brush, you're going to paint on the guy's trouser and shoe like that. Let's see. Let's reduce the opacity further to around 65%. I think that's okay. Now we are going to create some final adjustments. So head over the top and click on your adjustment layers icon, and we are going to start with a gradient map. Click on this area and select this gradient. Double click on this swatch. Then we are going to change the hue to a cyan. Then let's darken it a bit. Click on OK. Double click on the second slider and click on color. And we are going to make this a bright yellow or orange color. Then set the blend mode to color and the opacity to 26%. You can see the change. It's quite subtle but makes it look nicer. The next adjustment layer that we are going to use is the levels adjustment layer. Let's make the shadows, we are not going to affect the shadows. The midtones, let's set that to 1.1. You can see we brightened up the image. We brought up the midtones. Next we are going to add a solid color adjustment layer. We are going to fill it with the 77D36. It's a green color. Then we are going to set the blend mode to soft light. Then let's reduce the opacity to around 70%. Let's reduce the opacity further. Yeah, around 24% works. It looks much better. Then we are going to create another solid color adjustment. This time we are going to use the color 10190A. It's a pretty dark green, and we are going to set the blend mode to exclusion. As you can see, it makes the image look much better, brighter. Then Let's reduce the opacity to around 79% or further to 70. Then we are going to hide the effects on the edges. So select the layer mask and press Ctrl I on your keyboard to invert it. Then select your brush tool and use the right bracket key to make it larger. Then press X on your keyboard to swap the foreground colors to white. Then click once to reveal the effect. Looks better. Then we are going to add another solid color adjustment layer. This time we are going to fill it with 2A 2411, and we are going to set this layers blend mode to color dodge. As you can see, we made it quite brighter. We are going to leave the opacity at 100%, and the last adjustment layer that we are going to use is the color balance. Set the range to shadows. We are going to have cyan at 10%, at positive 10, or red or negative 10. Then we are going to have magenta at negative 6 and a blue at positive 7. Then set the range to midtones. We are going to have red at 5, and we are going to add some green, or rather some magenta at negative 4, then some yellow at positive 6. Then set the range to highlights. We are going to set that to positive 5, 6 and negative 6. Make sure your preserve luminosity is checked. Let's see the before and after. The colors look much more harmonized. I like it. Then we are going to, let's group all these layers and see the overall effect with the before and after. Let's call it adjustments or color grading. Turn it on and off to view the effect. As you can see, it's quite a big difference. The look and feel now is much better. Next, we are going to create a stamp by pressing Ctrl Shift Alt and E on your keyboard. Then rename this to filters. Let's click on it to make it a smart object, because we are going to be adding some filters and we want to be able to change them later. So the changes we are going to make are going to be non-destructive. So the first filter we are going to add is the reduce noise filter. So head over to the filter menu, then noise, and click on reduce noise. We are going to use a strength of 8, preserve details of 40, and reduce color noise at 30% and sharpen details at 25%. Make sure you have the remove JPEG artifact selected. Then press on OK. Photoshop is going to render the filter for us. I usually reduce noise before I sharpen my images to avoid creating some annoying patterns on the final image. So let's go ahead and add now an unsharp mask filter. Then we are going to use an amount of 40, a radius of 3.0 and the threshold of 0. Press on OK. Then the final filter that we are going to add is the lens correction. So head over to filter menu, then click on lens correction. Click on custom. And we are first of all going to add a vignette by dragging this slider to the darken or to the left side. Let's use a negative 70. That is okay. Then we are going to add some distortion of around positive 40. So drag this slider. I think that looks much better. You can click on the preview to see the before and after. Press on OK. This is it, guys. We've come to the end of the tutorial. I'm pretty impressed with the result. I hope you have something close to this. The environment looks nice and the color tone, so I'm pretty much impressed about it. I would love to hear your feedback and what you think about this tutorial, and probably propose more topics that we could cover in future. You can contact me in the comment section and also on my website jimnanjue.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. See you next time.